Luna stood in the center of her room, the silence broken only by the dry rasp of parchment against wood. She pressed her fingertips into the ink, tracing the jagged lines of a map that had sat undisturbed for decades. She found the golden star near the corner and tapped it. The paper did not just sit there. It rippled. The surface buckled like the skin of a disturbed pond, sending a pulse of azure light across the desk. Luna pulled her hand back as the light intensified, casting long, dancing shadows against the walls. From the center of the glow, a shape coalesced. It was a fox, translucent and shimmering, its form composed of shifting blue energy. It leapt from the desk, landing silently on the floor. "Luna, are you ready for the greatest adventure? We will visit the greatest wonders of the world, but you must prove your wisdom." Luna took a steadying breath. "I am ready, Whisper." The room began to dissolve into a swirl of brilliant light. The light collapsed, leaving them standing on shifting, sun-warmed sand. The air was dry, carrying the scent of ancient stone and heat. Before them, the Great Pyramid of Giza rose against a sky bruised with purple and orange. The sheer scale of the structure made the world feel overwhelmingly large. Without warning, the sand at the pyramid base began to churn. A massive figure of carved limestone pushed upward, shedding layers of grit and dust. The guardian stood tall, his presence vibrating through the ground. His voice sounded like tectonic plates grinding together. "Traveler, to pass through these gates, tell me, what is this structure known as?" 4 golden stones materialized in the air, hovering with a soft, rhythmic pulse. Luna stepped forward, the sand crunching beneath her boots. She studied the inscriptions, her heart hammering against her ribs. She reached out and touched the second stone. It is the oldest of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, built as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu. The guardian's stone face fractured into a slow, heavy grin. "Correct." Above the pyramid, fireworks of pure white light erupted, tearing a jagged hole in the air. A portal hummed, inviting them forward. Luna looked at Whisper, felt the rush of success, and stepped into the glow. The portal deposited them onto cool, manicured grass. The air here was different, damp with morning dew and smelling of jasmine. Before them, the Taj Mahal rose like a polished pearl against the pale sunrise, its marble surface catching the first rays of light. The silence was absolute until a figure drifted down from the central archway. It was a queen guardian, her presence fluid and steady. She looked at Luna, her expression unreadable but kind. "Little explorer, tell me, why was this monument built?" As she spoke, rose petals began to descend from the sky, swirling in the gentle breeze. Each petal bore a single word, dancing just out of reach. Luna watched them drift, her eyes darting between the floating messages. She reached out, catching a petal that felt warm to the touch. She held it up, her voice steady against the morning quiet. It was built by Emperor Shah Jahan for his wife, Mumtaz Mahal, as a symbol of eternal love. The queen bowed her head, a gesture of profound grace. The air erupted in a cascade of petals, raining down like fragrant confetti. The light shifted again, pulling them from the morning calm into the sharp, thin air of high-altitude peaks. The landscape here was jagged, dominated by the Great Wall as it snaked across the ridges like a dormant stone dragon. The wind whipped at their faces, carrying the scent of pine and cold rock. Luna steadied her footing on the uneven stone path, her breath coming in quick, visible plumes. Suddenly, the structure ahead groaned. A massive dragon guardian uncoiled from the watchtower, his scales shimmering with an iridescent, metallic sheen. He blocked the path entirely, his head lowering until his eyes were inches from Luna. The air grew heavy with his presence, a silent, predatory focus. He did not speak immediately, letting the silence stretch until it felt like a physical weight. 4 stone bricks materialized in the air between them. The dragon's gaze remained fixed on her, intense and unblinking, waiting for her to commit. Luna stepped closer, her fingers hovering over the cold, etched surfaces. She felt the pressure of the mountain, the height of the peaks, and the immense scale of the path beneath her feet. She took a breath, locked eyes with the Guardian, and prepared to answer. Luna pressed her palm firmly against the stone brick marked with the number. The moment her skin touched the surface, the brick glowed, and the dragon pulled back, his head snapping toward the sky. A low, resonant roar vibrated through the very stones of the wall, shaking the ground beneath Luna's boots. The Guardian's scales shifted, clattering like falling slate as he unfurled his massive wings. Amazing. It stretches over 21,000 kilometers, a path so long it can be seen from space. Before the final word faded, the dragon lunged forward. He did not wait for an invitation. He caught Luna by the harness of her pack, lifting her effortlessly into the biting mountain air. The world below became a blur of gray stone and deep green valleys. They banked sharply, the dragon's tail sweeping through the clouds, leaving trails of mist in their wake. Luna gripped the straps, her eyes wide, as they crested a jagged peak at breakneck speed. The wind roared in her ears, drowning out the mountain's silence. The rush of the mountain wind vanished, replaced by the humid, salt-tinged air of the coast. Luna landed softly on the peak of Corcovado Mountain. Above her, the massive stone figure of Christ the Redeemer loomed, his arms outstretched as if holding the very sky. The clouds drifted past his shoulders, casting shifting shadows over the summit. Luna looked down. The city of Rio de Janeiro sprawled beneath them, a vast grid of glowing lights that mirrored the stars scattered across the night canopy. The statue moved, not with the grinding of stone, but with a resonant, warm vibration. "Traveler, tell me, where do I stand to watch over this city?" 4 clouds drifted in the air around her, each holding a different name. Luna scanned the options, her eyes catching the label for Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. She reached out, touching the mist-laden surface of the cloud. "You stand on Corcovado Mountain," she said, her voice steady. The statue's arms seemed to descend, a gentle, golden warmth washing over the peak. The city lights below pulsed in response, twinkling like fallen stars. Luna felt the weight of the statue's presence, a silent, welcoming embrace. The humid air of the coast evaporated, replaced by the crisp, thin bite of high-altitude wind. Luna stepped onto the uneven stone terraces of Machu Picchu, where the clouds clung to the ruins like damp wool. The silence here was absolute, heavy with the history of the peaks. She took a breath, the cold air stinging her lungs, and looked toward the center of the plaza. A soft, rhythmic pulse began to glow beneath the mossy stones. One by one, the figures she had met across the world shimmered into existence. The stone guardian from the desert, the queen from the marble arches, and the dragon from the mountain heights all stood in a perfect, glowing circle. They did not speak, but their presence turned the misty morning into a stage of golden light. Luna felt the ground hum beneath her boots. Whisper hovered at her shoulder, his own light merging with the brilliance of the circle. Luna stood tall, feeling the quiet strength of the mountains. Whisper darted into the center of the ring, his translucent form spinning until he became a blur of azure light. He stopped directly in front of Luna, his eyes bright with a pride that mirrored the glowing circle of guardians. "You have walked the paths of the ancients and spoken with the wisdom of the earth," he chirped, his voice ringing through the thin mountain air. "You are a world wonder explorer." As he spoke, the parchment map in Luna's hands began to vibrate. She pulled it from her pack and spread it wide. Where there had once been only faded ink and empty space, brilliant golden stamps began to manifest. One by one, they burned into the surface the pyramid, the marble arches, the dragon-coiled wall, and the mountain peaks. Each stamp pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light, warm to the touch. Luna traced the glowing symbols with her fingertips, feeling the history of every site she had visited anchor itself to the paper. The guardians bowed in unison. The journey was no longer just a memory of places seen. It was a tangible weight in her hands. She stood in the center of the ruins, the map humming against her palms. The mountain air vanished, replaced by the familiar, still atmosphere of her bedroom. The golden light of the ruins faded into the soft, evening shadows of her room. Luna stood in the center of the floor, the silence pressing in, heavy and thick. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the dim light of her desk lamp. Everything was exactly as she had left it. The books were stacked in their usual corners. The chair remained tucked under the desk. Yet, the weight in her hands felt different. She walked to her bed and sat down, the mattress sinking slightly under her. She looked down at the parchment map resting on her lap. It was no longer just paper. It was a living record of the world. The golden stamps she had earned still pulsed with a faint, rhythmic azure light, casting long, dancing shadows against the walls. She reached out, tracing the outline of the Great Wall, and felt a faint warmth radiate from the ink. It was not a memory, it was a connection. Whisper sat on the edge of the bed, his glow dimming to a gentle flicker, his eyes watching her with a quiet, knowing glint. Luna leaned back against the headboard, the map resting against her chest. The hum of the magic was soft, like a heartbeat beneath the surface of the parchment. She closed her eyes, the sound of the wind still echoing. The adventure had ended, but the map remained. The magic had come home with her, waiting for the next question to be asked.